For 3 years, President Biden and the White House have denied knowledge of Hunter Biden's shady business deals, but new information is coming to light. Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner and longtime friend, is set to give bombshell testimony to a House committee on Monday. He claims to have witnessed Joe Biden on speakerphone during his son's foreign business calls at least 24 times. This after Hunter Biden's sweetheart plea deal collapsed in court this past week in a shocking turn of events. Joining me right now in a Fox Business exclusive is Texas Senator, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Ted Cruz. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Maria, great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Assess where we are.
The White House realizes they're in trouble. For 5 years, Joe Biden has said, I've never talked with Hunter about his overseas deals. I've never talked with him, never talked with him, never talked with him. That has been their talking point for 5 years. This week, when Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about it, she said, I've been asked 1,000 times. I'm going to give you the exact same answer I've given you every time. Joe Biden was not in business with his son Hunter. Now, obviously, it is very different to say you're not in business with him than to say you've never talked to him about it. And the reason is what you said. Devin Archer, Hunter's business partner, is getting ready to tell the House of Representatives that Joe Biden dozens of times talked with Hunter and with the foreign oligarchs and foreign business partners about these corrupt deals.
Give us your reaction to the collapse of that sweetheart deal, the judge giving us some refreshing honesty.
Well, this was an extraordinarily bad week for Joe Biden and the Biden White House. Thankfully, the Hunter Biden plea deal fell apart. And I say thankfully because that deal was absolutely disgraceful. It was a sweetheart deal. It was meant to be a slap on the wrist for Hunter Biden. It was meant to give him 0 jail time despite a long pattern of criminality, much of which he admits now. And it was designed to insulate him from any further liability. But all of that is secondary to its core purpose. The core purpose of that plea deal was to insulate, to protect Joe Biden, to cover up his involvement in criminality and to end all further inquiries. And it really, it was a manifestation of just how politicized and weaponized the Department of Justice has become under Joe Biden. But I've got to say, the level of scrutiny that was on the plea hearing this week rose to a high enough level, and you had a federal judge that actually forced the prosecution to go on record, and that resulted in the entire deal collapsing.
Well, I mean, can you imagine the arrogance that Hunter Biden's lawyers had, that they walk into that room thinking that because he is going to plead guilty to tax evasion, that he's going to be immune from anything else, even as all of these details and evidence of bank records have been coming out of him taking money from foreigners?
Well, and it's even more than that. The 2 tax evasion claims that he was pleading guilty to, which he's unquestionably guilty of, were 2 of the less serious tax evasion claims that he committed. One of the many problems with the DOJ investigation into his misconduct is that, as 2 IRS whistleblowers have now testified before Congress, the Department of Justice did not go after the more serious transgressions, the ones with long jail time, including illegal possession of a firearm by a drug user, which typically carries serious jail time. They were going to give him a slap on the wrist and no jail time. But look, here's what changed. If this plea hearing had been the day after the plea deal was announced, I think it would have been agreed to by both sides and likely entered into. What happened is several weeks transpired, and in those weeks, a number of things developed. Number one, as I just mentioned, we had 2 IRS whistleblowers come before the House of Representatives and testify as to the DOJ cover-up, testify as to Merrick Garland lying under oath, a felony, testify as to Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice committing obstruction of justice, protecting both Hunter and Joe Biden. That ratcheted up the pressure significantly. And then we had, secondly, last week, the FD 1023, the FBI report that was written when a confidential human source gave credible information alleging that Joe Biden, as Vice President of the United States, had received a $5 million bribe, had solicited it and had received it from a Ukrainian oligarch in exchange for official favors as Vice President of the United States. That's bribery, that's a felony. And given both of those, I think what happened, Maria, is when we got into the courtroom, and the judge asked the prosecutor, does this mean Hunter goes scot-free on everything, that there are going to be no prosecutions for anything? The prosecutor realized that they would look like idiots, that the patsies they were playing would be transparent to everyone, given this mountain of new evidence. If they said, oh no, we're not going to look at any of that evidence.
Right.
So they said, well, yes, we are still investigating, at which point Hunter's lawyers lost their minds and said, well, the deal's off. And I really was waiting for Hunter to stand up and say, do you know who my father is? Because that's really their defense, is daddy's in the Oval, and so none of this counts. And really, it's all about making sure nobody looks to the big guy for his involvement. That's why this is an issue of public concern. It's not one troubled soul with a drug problem. It is the President of the United States, who the evidence suggests has made a business for years of selling favors to foreign oligarchs and enemies of America.
Yeah, I mean, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has said many times this is an investigation of Joe Biden. That's where we're investigating. And all of this, what you're saying, appears to lead to the level of impeachment. These are impeachable offenses. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he's open to the possibility of an impeachment into President Biden. But my question is, what happens in the Senate? Will it die in the Senate? You've got House Republicans pushing for the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, as well as Attorney General Merrick Garland. Here's how the Democrats are responding. Watch this.
Impeachment imbroglio may be an excuse or a distraction from the real work that the House has to do, and the Senate as well.
This is just a complete distraction. And Speaker McCarthy knows it. In the absence of talking about important policies that reduce costs for everyday Americans, this is what we're left with.
They want to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. They're talking about impeaching President Biden, all for nonsense.
Senator, your thoughts? What's your reaction? Do they not care that the evidence shows the president has been accepting money from foreign adversaries like communist China?
Yeah, they don't care at all. Look, I believe the House should pursue three separate impeachments. Number one, Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. I believe they should impeach him today, right now. His conduct has been atrocious. It's created the worst humanitarian crisis on our southern border in the history of our nation. 7 million illegal aliens, 853 migrants died last year crossing illegally. Over 100,000 Americans died of drug overdoses. The body bags are piling up, and they need to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas because he is utterly defying federal law. That's number one. The second impeachment inquiry that should be opened in the House is an impeachment of Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. And the reason is simple. The IRS whistleblowers, if their testimony is accurate, then Merrick Garland committed multiple felonies. Now, it may not be accurate. That's why it needs to be an impeachment inquiry. He deserves a chance to present his side of the case, to present a defense. But if what they alleged is true, then Attorney General Merrick Garland lied under oath to Congress in response to questioning from me, and actively engaged in obstruction of justice. Both of those are felonies for which he should be impeached. But third, Joe Biden, I agree with Speaker McCarthy. I think the House should open an impeachment inquiry. I went through the FD 1023 in detail. The allegations in that document from the FBI are that Joe Biden directly received a $5 million bribe and got another bribe for his son Hunter in exchange for favors from the Vice President of the United States. If that is true, he should be impeached. Now, likewise, just as with Merrick Garland, the House should have an inquiry. Joe Biden deserves a chance to present a defense, to argue that it's not true. It hasn't been proven. These are allegations.
Senator, meanwhile, Democrats blocked your amendment this week to the National Defense Authorization Act. It would have allowed service members who were dismissed for not getting the COVID-19 vaccine to be reinstated or to have their discharge status changed. Why did Democrats block this amendment?
It's infuriating. There are at least 8,400 servicemen and women who were discharged from the military because they declined to get the COVID vaccine. The Democrats are happy with that. Now, last year, we successfully ended the COVID vaccine mandate in the military. That's something I've been leading the fight for a long time. That was a major victory. But that's only prospective. That's for servicemen and women today. We've got a huge recruiting problem in the military. The woke policies of the Biden administration are causing young men and young women not to want to serve. And we've got at least 8,400 experienced servicemen and women, officers, people with some of them 10, 15 years experience in the military, My amendment was very simple. It's called the Americans Act. It would let them enter the military again if the reason they were terminated was because of the COVID vaccine mandate that is no longer Department of Defense policy. Tragically, every single Democrat voted no.
Wow.
And I hope every Democrat senator, when they go home to their state, when they see a young soldier or sailor or airman or Marine who signed up to defend this country, who risked their lives to defend this country, and who were terminated under an arbitrary and abusive policy, I hope they're held to account.
That is unbelievable. Senator, it's great to catch up with you. Thanks so much.